Episode 50 of the Auld Triangle. 5-0. We made it this far, lads. We've made it this far. It's been emotional. 50 episodes of the Auld Triangle. Thanks for everybody for tuning in again. And episode 50 is going to be a big one. As always, Sinéad Kavanagh, Dylan Tuke. We're going to hear from them both later on in this episode. Obviously, PFL cards are being made. The Bellator Belfast cards are being made, and they have plenty of thoughts on both of those cards and their opponents, or lack of opponents, I guess. In Dylan's case, he was not included in the lightweight bracket. He will discuss why on that interview. Check that out in a few minutes' time, or moments' time, I should say. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend, share the podcast, spread the word, guys. We need that help. We need that growth. Well, we don't really need it, but we would like it. Andy, how are you doing? 50, 5-0. How are you feeling?
That's growth right there, Ian. We've got the plug at the start of the podcast. Look at this.
I always forget.
No, this is great. I'm doing brilliant. I ran a 5K this morning with my brother, which I never do. So feeling pretty good. We've got Six Nations. We've got Super Bowl. We've got MMA. You know, what more can we ask for? Great weekend.
Big weekend. Of course, all of that will have happened by the time everyone is listening to this. So
yeah, well, you know,
we break the fourth wall there, so we can't give any kind of opinions on what happened in the Super Bowl or anything like that. But look,
great touchdowns.
The Irish Super Bowl is the Auld Triangle podcast, and we're going to get straight into it. Caoilte, before we do, how are you, man? How are things? I know Burnley are playing right now. You have one eye on the podcast, one eye on the game, and the Burnley jersey on your back. Big one against Anfield. We'd be all happy to see Burnley go out and get the job done there. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. We don't know right now, but you'll know by listening to it after we're recording this. We're really breaking the fourth wall today, guys.
They already know.
We already know Burnley are going to lose. It's still in a little time of recording. But like, geez, if you see my energy deflating as it goes on, you'll just see it'll be the scoreline for Liverpool racking up. And if it goes the other way, then there might be a bit of good news somewhere or another. But I know all you lads, just you're happy to see Burnley win because you just want to give Graham some shit, to be very honest. And I'll join in because
absolutely, we'll back you up to the last when it comes to that as well. So look at let's get straight into it, lads. Big times for Irish mixed martial arts. The 17th of February, UFC 298. Garry is back in against Geoff, Neal. Huge fight for Irish mixed martial arts. Huge fight for Garry. You know, a lot of stuff going on right now. He's time to go in there and remind everybody why he's in the top 10 of the welterweight division, why he is a threat to the title. Will come when he steps in and faces off against Geoff, Neal. I'm looking forward to this fight, and I'm looking forward just to seeing the other nonsense and everything that's been going on. We're not even going to bother talking about that, guys. I don't think it is. Look, it's something we talked about ahead of his proposed last fight against Vicente Luque. The noise has somewhat died down. Maybe it'll pick up closer to fight week. But look, at the end of the day, Caoilte, all that matters for Garry is he goes in there, gets the job done against Geoff, Neal. But, you know, he's going to have to be on his game. Hopefully any of the external shit that's been going on with him hasn't affected him that much, that he can channel that emotion. He can go in there, because I think if we see Garry at 100%, we see him beat Geoff, Neal at UFC 298. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think regardless of all the any outside noise, he'll show up and he'll be able to put on a show. But in the case for this fight, I think it's a lot quieter. Now, it's not perfect, you know, it's not silent, but it's a lot quieter than the last kind of build up to the Luque fight, which in turn never happened. But it's a lot quieter, and maybe hopefully that has a bit of a helping hand. Not out of the limelight completely, but it's nice to almost have a sole focus on the fight building up to this one. There's going to be a bit of heat in this as this gets closer, and I am very much looking forward to it. It's a very, very tough test. I'm not sure how I'd rank it compared to the Luque fight. I thought Luque may have been a little bit more of a tougher test, but this is definitely is no slouch whatsoever. He's got power in those hands.
Yeah, I think this is a tougher test than Vicente Luque, in my opinion, at the very least, anyway, because I think Geoff, Neal kind of gets overlooked for his level of talent in the welterweight division. Went out there, ran Shavkat Rakhmonov very, very close in his last fight. Hurt him on occasion. That's the first time we've seen Rakhmonov hurt Andy inside the cage. And I feel Rachmanov is the boogeyman in the welterweight division in the UFC right now. With Geoff Neal, he's been here before. He's a guy who has fought up and coming talent. He's doesn't seem to be letting any of the noise get to him. He seems fairly concentrated, dedicated to the task at hand. But look, it's a difficult task for Ian Garry. It's also a difficult task for Geoff Neal here. I think, when we're talking about guys, and I mentioned Geoff Neal being underrated, I feel after everything is going on that Ian Garry is very, very underrated as well. And look, we've dealt with this before within Irish mixed martial arts, where I feel Conor McGregor was never getting the credit he deserved for the skill set that he possessed, because he was a talker, because he was outspoken, because he was this brash kind of Irish man, and that rubbed up people the wrong way, and that kind of blinded a lot of people, I feel, with Conor's rise and the actual level of skill that he brought in, and the wins that he did pick up. And we've somewhat seen that with Ian Garry, and now most of the talk is what's happening outside the octagon. What's happening inside the octagon is Ian Garry is going in there and putting on these performances, and he's producing different levels each and every time he steps in there. And when UFC 298 rolls around on Saturday, the 17th of February, he has another chance to remind everybody of his skill set, and he has a good chance to go in there and, I feel, utilize where he's training from, and that's Shoot the Box in Brazil. He's training with the likes of Charles Oliveira and getting some good work in down there. So I'm wondering, will we see some of those underrated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills that we haven't seen inside the octagon yet? Those are the questions I have. Those are the things that I'm most looking forward to seeing. And, at the same time, what will the naysayer say if he does go out there and absolutely juggernaut Geoff Neal and get him out of there and put on a hell of a performance? I'd be interested in seeing that. I'm curious to hear what your overall perspective is on the fight, his approach, everything, Andy. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this fight, and I agree with a lot of what you're saying there. And it's definitely, I've noticed that it's quieter coming into this one. Obviously, there was, I think, one or two clips have come out where he said some mad stuff, like he wants to kick him to the body and make him squat down like a dog shitting or something, which was I thought it was kind of funny, to be honest with you. But look, coming into this one, they were obviously booked to fight previously back last August. There was the whole kind of drama around the mugshot on the t-shirt. He's leaning into that again, but I think, I don't know if it's by design or not, but it's a more reserved, from an outspoken perspective, version of Ian Garry coming into this. And I think that you're right. I think he's been knuckling down. I don't think he doesn't train regardless. I think he's always, giving everything into it. But I would like it to stay quiet going into this one, and I'd like it to just see the fight, because I think it's a really, really cracking fight. I would have said personally that I thought the Luque fight might have posed him a few different threats to the Neal one, in the sense that Luque, very skilled on the ground, a lot of submissions. We've seen Ian grapple in cage warriors. We haven't seen him have to use it a whole lot in his UFC career to date. As you mentioned about the Rachmanov fight, like Geoff Neal, serious power in his hands, and he can hurt you. He can put guys away. But I do think that Ian Garry is a phenomenal fighter, and I think that, you mentioned Conor's rise and his skills being discounted and stuff. Conor McGregor was an absolutely incredible fighter in his, in his peak, and I think Ian Garry is the exact same. And I think, Ian's not, I wouldn't say Ian's close to reaching Conor McGregor levels as far as accomplishments and peak skills yet, but I do think he has potential. I think Ian has the potential to go down as the best Irish fighter ever from a skill set perspective. Now, I realize that's a big statement. He hasn't won a title yet. Conor McGregor won 2 titles. I'm fully aware of all of that, but I rate his skill set so highly that I think the potential is there. So this is another litmus test for him. There's a lot of killers in this division, but he needs to be going in here, and I would say the best thing he could do, obviously the best thing he could go in here and do is put away a guy like Geoff Neal. That'd be making a huge statement here and announcing himself at the top of the division. We're talking title contention, or at least in the conversation for that area of the division next, if he goes in and puts Geoff Neal away here.
A lot of the talk, Caoilte, has been how he can handle the mental side of things with everything that has been going on. I think, I always stem back to the Jack Grant fight and everything that happened, obviously with the fallout with Team KF and the build up to that fight, the injury, and how he handled that mentally, which was excellently. Went out and beat Jack Grant basically at his own game there. And I feel that he's going to do the same here. I feel to be a special fighter, you have to be able to channel those kind of emotions. You have to be able to channel those kind of feelings into the fight. And we might see a very venomous Ian Garry coming in here, Caoilte, to take on Geoff Neal. If you're Ian Garry's coach, what are you telling him to kind of go in there and do? Are you telling them to kind of play it safe? Obviously the big fear here is if you are going in with that pent up emotion that, you might start a little bit too quickly. You might leave yourself open for a big shot. And that's not going to be the thing that you want to do against a guy like Geoff Neal, who can put you away, who does have that power, like Andy said.
Yeah, like as you mentioned there about the Jack Graham fight, if you look back on that one, the way he handled that and managed to kind of, I guess, channel that energy and put it into performance, and it's mad because when you look back at it was his best grappling performance. It's the when we got to see it at its finest, and we could see something similar. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar after all this training in Brazil. In terms of handling that pressure as well, like he's matured a lot since then. He's come through that. He's a few years older now, and he's, maturing as a fighter, as a person. So I imagine he'll be more than capable of dealing with it now and being able to put on a performance. In terms of kind of keeping away from kind of how to plan for the fight, I reckon it's just stay away from that power, not leave yourself open. I can't see him getting drawn into starting very quickly. I can see him being the one playing the mind games in the cage and leave as well as outside, but I do think he'd be smart enough to stay on the outside, pick away, and then potentially I'd love to see the grappling. I just think that it's like this tool that I don't know. We've not seen it at its best yet. We've not seen it in the UFC. I would love it if he went in and we got to have a glimpse of what it's like and answer a few questions, because I think we all want to see what it's like in the UFC against the highest level. And I'd be even more excited if he went out and got a submission and just looked absolutely flawless on the ground. But in terms of the fight, just got to keep away from the power in the hands of Geoff Neal and be able to implement the game plan, be it stick and move, be it grapple, or be it just get on your bike and try and knock him out yourself. Who knows with Ian Garry at this point?
Absolutely. Very well said there. And I think that the grapple and the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is going to be a huge proponent in this fight if he chooses to use it. It's like that was kind of the thing that hung over Conor. It's the thing that's hanging over Ian, is that we haven't seen him in these kind of situations. But, I feel, getting that work in with Damian Maia, with Charles Oliveira, it kind of tells its story in its own right. And I'm very, very excited to see if he does open up. I think on the feet with Geoff Neal, you just got to cross your T's and dot your I's here. You can't be going in with loose shots, with single shots. I think Dean will do what he always does. He'll work off his jab. I think his jab is quicker. I think his jab is sharper than what Geoff Neal will offer. And I think that I look at fights, you'll fight at three different distances. You'll fight on the outside, you might find somewhere in the middle, or you'll fight in the pocket. And I think if you're Ian Garry here, you fight as much outside the pocket as you can, because Geoff Neal will be dangerous inside the pocket. It'll be quick stick and move for him. And I'm very, very curious if he can draw Geoff Neal in to try and secure that takedown, and we can see maybe some of those jiu-jitsu skills. Any final thoughts on this, Andy?
Well, I was just going to ask, do you think he actually will? Because I could see this playing out like the Neal Magny fight potentially. Like, we're like, we don't need to go into any of the stuff from the last fight camp, but like he is carrying all of that into this, and it seems like, there was probably a frustration there that he didn't get to respond in the cage, and now he's taken all that into this fight, and he's saying he wants to, he really wants to hurt. You talk about these, like, wants to hurt Geoff Neal with a body kick, all this stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if he chooses, assuming the fight's going his way, to keep it on the feet and put on, a performance similar to that Neal Magny fight. Yeah, no,
it's a good set. Like, it's a stylistic matchup that, Geoff Neal is not going to want to take the fight down. Geoff Neal is going to want to keep it on the feet. So I feel, we have seen inklings of Ian Garry's takedown defense and stuff in other fights, but I think to kind of keep Geoff Neal guessing, if not takedowns, definitely level changes. And that's going to open up on the feet. If you're giving Geoff Neal a problem about the takedown, in the later rounds, that will open up the striking a bit more for Ian. Look at you're spot on in what you're saying, Andy. He might not choose to do that. And I guess maybe that's the beauty that Ian Garry has coming into this fight, is that, you know, on paper, we would think that he can take this fight wherever he chooses to, and that's a good position to be in there. But, you know, whilst he's the young up-and-coming lion, Geoff Neal is the veteran. He's the savvy veteran, and, you know, you have to make sure that you're on your game and you open up all avenues when you're taking on a guy like Geoff Neal. And this is the fight. This is the gateway to big fights later on in 2024, guys. We got Colby Covington. We got a lot more people on waiting up in line for Ian Garry on his rise up the welterweight division. We'll break down that fight in full on the next Auld Triangle for sure. Really excited about that. The biggest fight probably we can say in Irish mixed martial arts over the next little while. See, on the run up to Bellator and PFL as well, we have a couple of big fights there. But yeah, this is going to be a very, very interesting one and a busy day on the February 17th. We'll talk a little bit about a couple of the domestic shows going on that day. But if you're an Irish mixed martial arts fan, that's going to be a hell of a day to be tuning in and watching. Speaking of PFL, we had some tournament announcements this week, and we had very, very noticeable absentees in that tournament. Lightweight tournament, no John Mitchell, no Dylan Tuke. We don't have Franz Malambo in the bantamweight tournament, and we have an Irish-based fighter, Daniel Scatizzi, who was announced for the lightweight bracket. But the big talk was, where are these fighters? And obviously, we'll talk to Dylan about his situation in just a few moments. But Andy, you know, a couple of other noticeable absentees in the tournament. Do you think that this is a hit, or is it a miss? Do you think that the PFL are missing out? Obviously, circumstances may be out of their control in some cases here. I don't know how much we can say, but what are you feeling about all of this process?
I think it's a bit of a miss in the sense that there's not the names there in the tournaments that, aside from Kane Musa and then obviously the last year's winner, I would say those would be the biggest names. Now, there is some continuity, I would say, that, you know, the likes of Conor Hughes, Alexander Chizoff is in there. And then Daniele Scatizzi, from an Irish perspective, it's good to see, you know, someone that we can kind of hang our hat on from our perspective. But I think that, there's maybe fewer of the more well-known fighters to the audience there. So, but look, I think with these tournaments, they are also an opportunity. Like, I think one of the great things about these tournaments is the continuity. You go on a bit of a journey with these fighters, and it's not just with, say, like, if you're tuning in for one fighter or for like a Dylan Tuke or a John Mitchell or someone, you know, you get to know their opponents as well, and then you see them progress. And like, you know, you see a guy like Jakub Kazuba, who looked great in the tournament last year, now going in, and can he defend and all this type of stuff. But yeah, it is disappointed to see the lack of Irish. John Mitchell is injured. He posted up, I saw a couple of photos he put online of him in the wheelchair in the hospital.
Yeah, I think that news was out, actually. I didn't want to say it, but yeah, I forgot that he did post it. Yeah, so that was unfortunate. Yeah. Yes,
and that it seems that what I've gathered is from kind of talking to the fighters that aren't there, you know, when there's injuries, PFL Paris seems to be their kickoff, right, for this tournament. So if you can't make it to that PFL Paris show, you're not in the tournament. And there's been some matchups that have been juggled around as well. We reported that who did we report? Sorry, we said that Alexander Chizoff and Andreas Binder were squaring off. Now, Chizov's since then been drafted into the tournament, so Binder will be getting a new opponent, which will be announced. But you know, so there's moves and shakes here, and there will continue to be, I imagine, with these tournaments. But yeah. My juices aren't as flowing as they were, but that could change. And, you know, a guy like Kane Musa, I think, will add a bit of spice to it.
Definitely will. Like, and I mean, look, on paper, we might not be familiar with a lot of the fighters there, Caoilte, but, you know, it was a similar case last year. I think Sean said it in the group when we were talking about it, is that, you know, when you look into it, there's always a couple of hidden gems. And who's responsible for the hidden gems? It's Dan Hardy. And you want Dan Hardy to pick out some talent. He's the man to do it, Caoilte, isn't he? And I'm sure, look, even though there's not that added Irish interest in these tournaments this year, you know, we're going to have some Irish spread across a couple of these cards. And the tournaments will probably, I love a tournament from the get-go. It take me back all the way to the Pride tournaments. I romanticize those kind of style tournaments. These ones are very difficult in their own right, to kind of, you're competing in quick succession over the course of 8 to 12 weeks. But you know, I'm always a fan of a tournament, and I'd say you're a man yourself that would be fond of a tournament too, Caoilte, would you?
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love a tournament. Even, sure, you saw me during the IMAS, and it was going on during day after day of just fights. The structure, I love it. There's something special about it, I always find. I do wish there was elbows, but that's a story for a different day.
Well,
could be developing news there.
Did you see Dan Hardy kind of teasing? I'm assuming I put 2 and 2 together and making hopefully 4 and not 5. But it seems like they're teasing something with that.
Yeah. So there was a card announced, the Bellator versus PFL champions versus champions card will allow elbows. So that's a start. The big thing about elbows in these kind of tournaments is when you're fighting in quick succession, obviously you allow elbows, you're heightening the percentage of cuts happening. Obviously, when cuts happening, you have to let them heal. You can't train properly, and that kind of, you know, holds you back a little bit in this tournament format. Now, I can understand that, but when we get to the finals, I think that's the biggest one for us here. We can understand maybe in the quarterfinals, in the semifinals, no elbows, but we gotta let those elbows go. Like Ludacris back in the day, we gotta throw them bows in the PFL final and in PFL in general. It's just,
they need like you get like a little cover on a knife or something, you know, just cover the tip for the regular season ones. They can still get the impact, but maybe not the slice, and then and take it off for the for the 100%. Give him an elbow pad.
Before we head on over to Dylan here, what he has to say about his omission from the lightweight tournament. Any final thoughts, Caoilte, on the bracket? Anyone that maybe we should be looking out for that we don't know about, or anyone that tickles your fancy in any of the brackets?
Do you know what? Not really. There's no one standing out. I do like the look of it. I trust Dan Hardy's judgment. I think he's scouting. I think he's on the ground scouting, to be very honest. I think he's going to shows or looking at shows, probably in depth on everything. And I think he's putting these together with this kind of whatever vision in his head that he's trying to put these fights on and see the bigger picture of how they can grow and put on some fantastic fights for PFL. The fans really like. So I do really respect the job he's doing. So I trust that they're all going to be pretty good, to be very honest.
100%. Yeah, let's head on over there, hear what Dylan Tuke had to say about his omission and lots of other things as well. We'll shoot over, get that done.
And joining us now is Dylan Tuke. Dylan, what's the crack?
What's up, boys? How are you? Thanks for having me on again.
We're getting you on very regularly now. Are you in Ireland, Scotland? Where's the current destination for you?
What are you, a copper?
You're up there now later.
I'm in Dublin. Oh, the phone's going to keep dropping a little bit, but it's alright. I'm in Dublin at the moment. I come over to see Darren O'Rourke in Physicare out in our town. I don't get any like physiotherapy like him, so I try to come over once a month now just so he sees me. He looks after all the D1's finest. So me, Coco, and obviously Court that, like, you know what I mean? Are you coming over? Are you doing a bit of training as well, or is it just for the physio? Are you going into DCA for a little bit, or over to TK? Nah, I don't do anything. Whenever I come out, I'm quite injured at the moment, like when I have been. So I've just kind of been getting better. So to be honest, I hate training anyway that isn't with James. So you're kind of, I don't know. Once you kind of get a taste of the best coach ever, it's kind of hard to go to anyone else.
I guess you mentioned you're a bit injured there as well, and a lot of talk recently we have is the PFL tournaments that are going on and the notable absentees in the tournament. Specifically, if I look at the lightweight one, there's a big name missing in yourself. Is it due to injury? What's kind of happened there?
Mad boring, isn't it? That's what I was saying. Like, if you look at that bracket, it's like all the ugly boards in a pub when you go in. Like, you know what I mean? You're kind of just trying to ignore them in the corner. Like, you know what I mean? That's what that bracket looks like now. Like, I don't know. I got popped in Paris weight, so I got popped for THC. Even though I followed the USADA guidelines and stuff. But obviously I smoke a shit ton, so my blood is just high. Like, but they tried to make a big meal out of it. Ended up trying to suspend me for like 2 years and take a win off me in Dublin and take money off me. And I was laughing at them. I was just like, I'm gonna retire. I just ain't getting money off me. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, and then I was like, if you suspend me for 2 years, I'm falling into that Nick Diaz category where like I'm like I thought we were all over weed now. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm very secretive about my substance abuse. You know what I mean? I'm very open about it. But yeah, I got popped for that, and then they wouldn't let me in the tournament. Then it was not on PFL's fault. The PFL tried their hardest. I kind of, the only fault they'd have with PFL was the fact that they were going to put the lightweights back out first in March after us just having a whole year and a whole season of fighting, and then we're the first group to go out. I thought that was a bit idiotic, to be honest. I thought it would have been smarter to put the bantamweights or the flyweights or whatever the newest group coming in was, you know what I mean? Even the welterweights and the bantamweights or something like that, like, you know what I mean? Like they did with last year, but they weren't budging on that. So then with the ban and then with the injuries, I just couldn't do Paris anyway. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because I know if I hadn't have been banned, I would have been forced to do the camp anyway. Jimmy would have just got the whip down and just started hitting me and being like, "Come on, go boy, go." And I would have been like, "But I'm so sore." He would have been like, "Go boy, go." You know what I mean? So yeah, that's it pretty much. Banned for weed in 2024. What are the fucking odds?
Yeah, it's one of those things, I guess, we all think it kind of is moved past, because there's not exactly really a performance enhancing side to it. But in terms of the bans, like how long is that, are you out for? Like you mentioned, they're trying 2 years. Like, is there a length of time on this?
I have a great manager, Leah in Valencia. So I'm very grown up now. I'm matured in my old age. Like, you know, I have managers and stuff doing shit for me. So he got me a 3-month ban, got me to, I get to keep me win and I get to keep me money and stuff. They were never going to get the money off me anyway, let's be honest. Like, you know what I mean? What are you going to do, rock up to me door? Like, yeah, mate, good luck. But I don't know, I'm just happy I got to keep the win, because if I had lost the win, obviously, in Dublin, and it would have looked dodgy as well, because he's a French fighter and it's like he got mauled, so it's like, you know what I mean? I just tried to give him a 1-up, so I'm happy about that more than anything. So yeah, I don't know. I move forward. I'm going to come back in June. I'll be fighting in June. I'll just be doing featured bouts. They wanted me to do a reserve spot in the tournament, but I'm not being a backup fighter. Like, you know what I mean? They can just pay me for featured bouts, and I can do the tournament next year. Like, you know what I mean?
On a timeline, Dylan, when did you first find out that there was issues with the sample and stuff like that?
I think I only found out after the Dublin fight. Like, you know what I mean? So they were really, I think I got a phone. I think it was USADA or something. I got a letter. I couldn't even tell you. I think I got an email or something. You know me, boys. I don't notice that anyway. Like, you know what I mean? But it wasn't brought to my attention right away. Like, sure, I fessed up to them anyway. They were like in the back when I was getting tested, and fucking me and Yakuzuba getting tested. And I'm there going, I'm gonna pop for THC. Looking at him now, he's gonna pop for EPO test. Fucking everything. Fucking juice head cunt. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm sitting there like, oh yeah, I'm going to pop a THC. And then once they made a meal out of it, I was kind of like, I told you it was in my system anyway. It wasn't like I hid it, like, you know what I mean? And then I think what stood to me, like what I said, what stood to me was that I did try and follow the guidelines of USADA. So it was kind of like, I tried to do the right thing, but it didn't work out, like, you know what I mean?
Did they tell you something that you should have done that you didn't do that maybe would have made you pass that test?
Yeah, they said if I had left it for a week, if I had it in a smoke for a week, I would have been grand. But you see, the thing is, what's more annoying is I done the same for Dublin and I done the same for Germany and got tested in both, and I was grand. There was no issue, like, you know what I mean? And I smoked the exact same way up to it, like, you know. Like, I don't think it's any secret to everyone about my childhood and about how I grew up and stuff. I have an awful lot of childhood trauma, like, and I do use weed as a kind of like a helping hand, like, you know what I mean? It helps me sleep. I remember I first started using it just to get rid of night terrors, like, you know what I mean? Waking up in the night screaming. Ash can contest to that, waking up crying in the fucking room beside that, like, you know what I mean? And it was just to the point of where I do use it to kind of self-medicate a little bit, like, and it's kind of, you know what I mean? I have used it for a long time, like, I'm very open about it, you know what I mean? I've seen drugs all my life. I've seen heroin use, cocaine, crack use, valley use, tablet use, everything, the same as any young D1 boy, and I've seen it all, and the one thing that has never stood out to give bad effect or make people angry has always been weed, like, and, you know what I mean? I just never seen an issue with it, and then, you know what I mean? I was just kind of, I don't know, like, maybe it's something that I have to get a bit of a hand on as well, but I fucking don't drink, I don't do anything, so it's like, you know what I mean? If I smoke it a bit, I'm kind of like, what the fuck more do you want? Like, it's not like I'm sitting at home doing nothing all day. I'm fucking out training 3 times a day, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Look, there's definitely medicinal values to weed. Lots of states in America have it legalized. It's legalized over here in Canada as well. Like, so I definitely see where you're pointing. I don't think you really need to justify why you smoke it or anything like that, in my opinion. But it's just unfortunate that this has happened. And look at in a place where, look at, there has been this kind of negative talk towards weed, especially around the UK, Ireland, Scotland, where it's not legalized as of yet. Like, and you know, I would agree with you. I think it's a shame that it happened in 2024, that you're not able to make a living because of that fact. Personal opinion would label it a non-performance enhancing substance.
Anything is going to make me slower, you know what I mean?
Yes, I was going to say, like, I mean, the most famous cases in history is the Nick Diaz case over there. He fought that as well. They were trying to ban him for life over there for smoking weed in I think Nevada at one stage, and they've since loosened.
Even took the Gaumi laws off him as well, like, you know.
As well. Yeah. So I'm sure, look, at you haven't had the easy roll of the dice here as well, and you know, it must be frustrating that you're on the sidelines. But like you said, it's a blessing in disguise. You're moving on. You're going to be in feature bouts later on this summer. Is that right?
Yeah, in June. It just feels like my fucking whole career has just been a lot of bad rolls of the dice, from fucking getting built into the head by that little rap Brazilian to then fucking Sadiq getting a fucking blessing of a stoppage to fucking just me whole fucking life, like, you know what I mean? Even losing the teeth and all, like, you know what I mean? Just the fucking odds of it. Like, I've some stories to tell at the end of this whole shit. But yeah, no, well, June I'll be in. I think it's Newcastle in June, so close to home as well. I'll go down to the Geordie side, see what's up, and then I'll be on the Glasgow card then when they come back. So I'm buzzing for the Glasgow card, to be honest. Yeah, me and Mark Ewan on that together, that'll be amazing. I think Stevie's even planning on coming out of retirement for the tour time again. He's like the Undertaker. He's like Ric Flair. He just can't stay away. The man just keeps coming back out of retirement.
Dylan, just to jump back to the timeline, because it's a little bit confusing for me, because obviously you're saying there you kind of found out after the Dublin card, but that was December, but it was September when the Paris card happened. Obviously, was it surprising to you that was it surprising to you that you found out so late? Because it's a bit bizarre.
I was shocked, because even Dan and all said it. Dan were like, we wouldn't have booked you for Dublin if we had known it was going to be an issue. Like they were like, we wouldn't have even thought about that. And I was like, no, I wouldn't have cared. Like, don't get me wrong, I wasn't thinking that I needed a quick turnaround for Dublin, because like after the Caoilte fight, I only made 2,600 quid. Like, you know what I mean? I was broke. I was literally like, after that whole fight camp, I was fucked. Like, I mean, I literally in my bank landed 2,600 quid because PFL fucked up on my flights and made me pay for an extra set of flights. Like, you know what I mean? Cost me $1,000 on the week. Like, took it out of my purse. Like, it's mental. Like, you know what I mean? So I was broke. So, and especially coming up to Christmas, so it was like, I need to make money for Christmas. Like, I obviously try and help out. I don't have to help out my nanny anymore. She's fucking doing great. Like, but I try and help out with my sisters and stuff like that. Like, you know what I mean? So I was sitting there going, I need fucking money. Like, you know what I mean? So I had to jump back in straight away. And it was kind of like, if I had known, I wouldn't have done it. And if they had been quicker and more forthcoming about it. But then at the end of it, it was like, why should I suffer because you have done your job badly? Like, you know what I mean? It's not my fault. You took like 2-3 months to get back to me about a piss sample. Like, you know what I mean?
And then just on that, so you mentioned a 3-month ban that they were looking for 2 years, but then it was 3 months. When does that run out, or like did they backdate that? Or
it runs out in May, so I signed some agreement. But you think it would have just went from the day to the competition, like, you know? But I don't know. It's that thing. The France that are last ones to the party, so they obviously are just difficult. You know what I mean? I don't understand it, because it's some dope sitting behind the desk making a decision about me that's never got slapped in the face. Like, you know, it's like a weird one, because it's like I would have got it, because what I was worried about was fucking like it coming out and it just looking that I popped, and then obviously I look like I'm after getting fucking huge. Like, you know what I mean? So one of the big thing that everyone has said over the last while is, look how big Dylan's got, look how the shape Dylan's in. Dylan looks huge. Dylan looks this. Dylan looks that. And I openly slag juice heads all the time. So my thing was like, everyone's just gonna lob me in that I was on EPO, or that I was on juice, or that I was on this, and then I'm a strong fucker as well. So it was like, oh, I'm just gonna get lobbed into that. So it was like, no, I want everyone to know that it is weird, like, you know. So I'm not sitting in that like I'm a juice head category, like, because people would label. I'm so good that people would try and blame it on that anyway. Like.
So this is the first time we're hearing the news. How?
Yeah, I'll break it. I'll break the news.
Yeah, is that something that was important to you, that you wanted to break it rather than it coming from somewhere else?
Yeah, because kind of, you know yourself, people will try and mix and watch, like mix and wash everything they can, like, to kind of get a story out of it. So, and as well, I love you guys. I heard you had asked already about it, so I knew that I was going to get a fair shake from the boys, like, you know what I mean? But then my manager was on that board where he was like, oh, don't say anything. I was like, nah, like, the lads at SevereMMA boys, like, I was like, of course, I say whatever the fuck I want, like, you aren't like fucking journalists to me, like, you know what I mean? Like, fucking go for a coffee with you, like, fucking often go for a coffee with Andy, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's just that different relationship, like, you know?
Appreciate that.
Sorry, Ian, go ahead.
No, work away, Caoilte.
With the fact that USADA and UFC kind of had a big fallout and they got dropped and then now PFL are with them, does it leave a bit of doubt as to how they handle things when, given your situation, what's kind of happened over the last few months with them?
No, to be honest, USADA were amazing. USADA rang me and all afterwards and like gave me, like, you're on the phone, one of the representatives was on the phone for maybe I think like 20 minutes kind of briefing me through stuff and like explaining what I could do on fight week, and then he was like, all right, Dale, do you take anything, like, just out straight between us? And I was like, obviously I smoke, like, and he was letting me know the ins and the outs of this and that and what I should do and how I would do it. And like, obviously I smoke quite a lot, like, so my blood is going to be more than the average person. So if you were smoked now and got tested right now, but I didn't smoke for 3 days, I'd probably still have more in my system because I'm smoking so heavily for so long. So I probably just need to give it an extra couple of days, and with the water load and stuff, it'd be fine. Like, but I genuinely just think most states and most countries don't really give a fuck about it. It was just that it's France, and I just got unlucky, like, kind of thing.
I guess with the next fight, when you're looking at June, are you going to try and alter how you approach things now that this has happened? You tried to follow guidelines before. You're going to take extra precautions. There's something you might adjust in the build up.
Nah, I'm just gonna do whatever. Nah, I'm gonna get paid. So I think the final this year is in Rotterdam. If I'm blowing the hatchet off things, but Dan Harry told me that, and I just looked at him and was like, I don't think I can fight him any. Jimmy, if he's coming to collect me from a coffee shop on fight day, he'll be sitting there blitzed out my tits. No, I'm gonna cut it out for the week beforehand. I was chatting to Dan. Dan's very, to be honest, I'd be lost without Dan Hardy. You know, he is a great guy. Like, if he reaches into that pocket and pays me what I want for a June, he'd be an even more amazing guy. But he does look out for his fighters an awful lot. Like, and it's even better because he's been there. Like, I still get starstruck every time I see the cunt, to be honest, because I remember watching him, like, sitting up late watching him get battered by GSP. Like, you know what I mean? And I was obviously rooting for GSP back then. Like, you know what I mean? So it's weird for me now to see him and be like, oh, you're the outlaw, like, you know what I mean? And then he's a badass around the area and everything and stuff. Like, it's weird, like, but then he does look out for us. Like, and he's handled this French thing for me really well. Like, he fought me case on the whole, like, the ban and not losing me win and stuff. That was really important to me. Like, the win, not losing the win was important because my record is shady as fuck anyway. Like, so I didn't want that to be a no contest and end up looking like fucking Taylor Lappy's fucking record. Like, I know he got popped by juice, like, you know what I mean? But like, still, I don't want to look like me patch our record even more. Like, fucking, it's already looking dire. Like, so at least I'm 7-4 now. At the end of this year, I'll be 10-4. That's a nice record. Like, that's a nice fucking record. But 10-4 with legit 14 legit guys, not fucking 14 pussies. Like.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to hear your comments there about Dan, because I think Dan is an absolutely brilliant advocate for fighters and a great guy to have there at the helm of PFL Europe. And additionally, I think a lot of people, when you hear someone getting popped for weed, it's kind of like, this is, to be blunt, like, it's kind of an IQ test almost, or, you're to expect you can use it for a certain amount, but it sounds like you were following what you thought were the correct guidelines anyway through USADA. I do want to ask you about the comments. Look, we did an interview before your last fight and you were very transparent about your, I guess, fears. I don't know if fears is the right word, but your experience and potential fears with CTE. And I was curious, was there any not blowback, but was there any reaction, I guess, from PFL? And more importantly, how are you feeling about it all now? And are you noticing symptoms still?
What did I tell you, Andy? What did I tell you? Nobody will say fuck all. Nobody will come up and say nothing to me. Because why? Because I'll slap the fuck out of them. Because I'll say whatever the fuck I want. And I told you that on the day after, when we were sitting there and getting quizzed by people saying you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And what did we do? We put it up, and it was one of the best interviews that you've ever put up. You know what I mean? It was one of the best feedback we've ever got. Like, and it was because it was honest, and it's what people think. It's what people that are sitting at home have the same issue. I still have the same issues. I still quite, like, the forgetful thing, that varies. Like, you know what I mean? I do overthink headaches and stuff, you know what I mean? I say, you know what I mean, a lot, so that must be something. It's always there. Any fighter who says it isn't is just a liar. Like, it's just you're lying to yourself. I know because I know how I feel it. Like, it's not the fights, it's the spars, it's the bangs in the gym that do it. But luckily enough, I don't spar anymore. You know, I only spar in camp. I don't spar outside the camp. James is fine with that. Me and James had a chat and stuff. James knows the gig. He actually says to me he prefers it that way because he says, you know how to fight. He's like, there's one thing that you know, you can fight. I can throw you out there right now, you'll fight. You're just used to it, you know how to fight. He's like, all we need to do is get you fit and sharp and then you're good to go. So I only do 8 weeks of sparring now. So it's kind of, I've gotten a bit smarter as I've gotten older. I obviously have people around me and stuff that are kind of guiding me and stuff like that. Like, I know James seems like a super, like, he's like an old school hard ass, like, but he's very, very intelligent and very in-depth with stuff. He knows he only have one brain, that it's only like, it's very short-lived. So he doesn't want us all to be fucking chilling through us, drinking through a straw in like 10, 20 years, like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like, and it's very refreshing to hear, even though it's scary. And like, I'm sure, you know, a lot of people are kind of thinking as they hear you talk about these symptoms, thinking, you know, maybe this guy should hang them up from a safety perspective. And MMA is no joke. And someone who has learned that the very hard way recently is Ryan Curtis. Curta, your D1 brother, I suppose. What was your reaction to hearing that news? I know it's obviously you represent the Dublin 1 area every time you go out there, and so does Ryan. So I was just interested in your take on that.
Me and Kurt are like literally grew up 5 minutes down the road from each other. We're not close. We don't talk. We're not really pally or anything. Like, but he's from D1. He represents my area, like our area. The same as like I'm close with Coco. Me and Coco are very close. Like, but it's shit though, isn't it? I more just felt for his poor missus and his poor baby. Even worse for him because he left Roddy to go up there and train up there in FAI with the guys up there, and they're great guys. Like, so we put an awful lot into that for it then to happen. It's kind of like, oh shit, like I feel for you, because it could have happened. That could be like me going to Scotland. You put everything into moving and uprooting your life from fucking Summer Hill to fucking up wherever in Ballymena, wherever the fuck you are, like in the middle of the sticks nowhere. Like, we had a new wife and your new baby, like, and you're happy out, and happiest you've probably ever been, and then that happens. It's kind of, it puts everything into perspective. But luckily enough, we have a great community around us. People pull together. The community does really pull together. I think, to be honest, I don't want to shit on a bad time, but it's kind of almost like, if you're SBG, it works out better for you. I know Ian Coughlin has been having the same exact issues for years, like, you know, and it's kind of one of those things you don't really see too much about him or hear too much about him, but that fucking cunt's been fucking through the mud, like, and it's someone that doesn't get spoken about as much, but he's in the exact same boat as Kurt. If not, I think he's probably worse off, not worse off, but he's in a bad position as well. Like, so it's happened to other people around that it's just you don't hear about. But of course, you feel for Kurt. You know, it's heartbreaking stuff, mate. But I'm not saying like fuck that GoFundMe done really well. You know what I mean? He earned. I'm not saying he fucking. I'm not saying he's got enough money to kind of help him out and kind of not to be worrying at the moment for his kids and stuff. So that's a positive. Like, you know, in a shitty time, it's a positive. And if I know anything about Courta, he's a tough little bastard. So what they're saying is like, what, he'll be walking in 6 or 5 months. I guarantee he comes back sparring and all in 12 months. He's just, anybody who knows Courta, I'll tell you, he's a stubborn bastard. Like, he's a stubborn-headed cunt. Like, so I'm sure them doctors told him that, and he looked at them and just went, yeah, no bother. Another young fella that's fucking Liam McCracken. You know what I mean? What happened to Liam McCracken? He got hit by a fucking bus. That's the worst thing I've ever seen in my fucking life. And that cunt should not be alive. I love that young fella. That young fella was like here. Like, I spied that young fella. He is an animal. That young fella is a fucking killer. Unreal. A proper gentleman. A proper lovely young fella, just down to earth. Has a baby. Has a girlfriend as well. Helps out and runs a gym down in Dingar and that place down in the square. Just a lovely, lovely boy. Like, and that happened to him, and you see, like, obviously he got a little bit of a help from the GoFundMe as well, but it's almost like it's just bad luck over the last few years. There's been something happening to all our up-and-coming stars or whatever, and it's scary, like, because it is one of those things that I've been saying to you for so long. If you have to be all in. So when something like this happens, you've nowhere to look around you and be like, oh, well, I'm broke now. I'm going to go on the dole and get 180 quid a week, you know? So, heartbreaking stuff. Like, but look, like I said, we do have a great community, and they do pull together in times of need like this. So, shit, like, fuck it, like, I don't even know, to be honest, lads. It does. I always used to say, don't call it a sport, though, don't they? It's, you know what I mean? It's not really. It's fucking cruel. Like, I don't know.
Very much so. So I guess, look, going back to PFL and looking at the touring bracket, you had a quick comment about the lads who were in it earlier, but I want to get your thoughts on this lightweight bracket. Lads you fought in there, 2 of them even, and a couple of new faces. What do you think of it overall?
I think if they end up, if someone pulls out and a reserve gets into that tournament, all them boys are fucked. That's all I'm saying, because there's a Mac 10 waiting for all of them in that reserve spot. Mark Ewan, he's all fucked. So hopefully one of them gets injured so they can all experience the power of Mark Ewan. So that's all I'm saying. I want my boy to go in there and do the job. So I'm going to just be waiting just with a baseball bat outside, just whacking someone's knee just so he can get in. Like, that's, I'm probably breaking the news there, but I'm not up for any of them. We don't want my boy to get in, but I think the bracket looks shy. I think everyone in it. I think Connor's going to win it, to be honest. I think Connor Hughes will win it. I think he's my pick if Mark doesn't get into it.
So I guess in terms of you now, what do you have any? You'd be fairly happy to say who you want most of the time, but is there anyone on your mind for who you want when you come back to the PFL later this year?
No, I'm not really too sure about even what's going on. Like, I don't really care about any of them. I won't smoke any of them. They're just all jobs. Like, I'll just get anyone's back or choke, whatever. They're not going to be able to touch me. I'm too quick for these lightweights. I think they've all realised that. Like, I know for a fact when they all seen that I wasn't in that bracket, they all got blessed. Like, you're all like, oh, thank God. Like, I know. Like, who would I have been if I would have been against that Spaniard boy? I would have taken him down and mauled him quick. He's one-dimensional. Then I would have had either Chisholm or Scatese. Daniele knows how that would go. Like, he's got many hiding off me. And Chisholm would get his back quick, like, you know. So then what would have left me with Kazoo, but Connor, I'd have loved him to get Kazoo back. I'd have ended his life quick, like, especially after seeing what John Mitchell done to him. I'd just a bit bigger as well now. I'd approach that a bit differently. I think I'd just make him. And then if I had fought Connor, like, I'd have got the finish, like, but it would have been great to have another round 2 with him. That was our plan. We were texting each other, being like, let's get each other in the final again. Like, I actually love that kid, so I'd love to see him do well if obviously Marco doesn't get into it. Like.
Look, Dylan, I guess we've kept you for a good 20 odd minutes now. Thanks very much for the time. We all appreciate it. And it was great to hear you speak so openly about things. And I know it's going to be a few months, but we all look forward to seeing you back in there.
I'll be around. I won't be going missing. I never shut up anyway.
There's no danger of that anyway, Dylan.
No danger of that ever.
Whenever things get settled up and everything like that, we'll definitely have you back on, talk about the next fight and stuff. It was great to have you on. A regular guest on the Auld Triangle now, we can call you.
Me and Chris Fields would probably take up about an hour to get over here sitting together doing a joint out.
100%.
Thanks so much for having me on, lads.
Thanks, Dylan.
Thanks, Dylan.
Bye.
See you later.
Alrighty, we had Alan Philpott fighting for a title last weekend at Eternal MMA over in Australia. The chance to go in there and to be crowned the Eternal Champion. Andy, I know you took in the fight. A solid start for Alan. Didn't work out for him in the end. Went on to lose by submission. Or was it by TKO? Was it submission in round 3? Just take us through some of the ins and outs of that fight, please.
Yeah, it wasn't to be for Alan Philpott, and look, it's the story of Alan Philpott's I don't know if his career, but like, you know, the latter half of his career, if we're looking at, you know, it to date, is he seems to start really, really strong, and then just ends up getting caught in a sub. And again, here, I thought he looked absolutely brilliant. His variety of shot selection, his temperament, he looked very composed. He wasn't rushing into anything. He was cracking his opponent with lovely body shots. His opponent started landing some nice leg kicks early, and Philpott immediately began to check them and completely negated that threat, landing nice kicks to the body, using his body shots to then go up top. and he won the first round. He got taken down at the very end. The end of the latter half of the first round was spent up against the cage with his opponent, Rod Costa, trying to take him down unsuccessfully until about the last 10 seconds when he landed a slam. But, nothing to even come close to taking that round. Philpott then again started strong in the second. I think he threw a left hook, because I think this happened twice, where he threw a left hook and Costa, level changed, got the takedown, and he did some decent work, not overwhelming, but he was landing some pot shots to the body. I think he got to mount at one point, land some shots, so he did enough to win the second round. So it was 1-1 going to the third, and again, Philpott kind of recomposed himself, looked good on the feet, was winning the striking exchanges, and again threw left hook, level change, double leg, and from there Costa really just took over. He got to the back, he was threatening with subs, he got to mount, he was landing some heavy shots, and from there it just, for the last minute of the fight, I was kind of looking at it thinking, I think this fight is going to be over soon, and I think it'll probably be a submission, and that's what happened, which is very unfortunate. And I have a soft spot for guys like Alan Philpott, or not specifically, but any fighter who has kind of taken the hard road and has had a lot of fights, taken the tough fights, and they just never see it. Something just doesn't seem to click for them, and they don't maybe get some of the opportunities that they had hoped for. And that's just kind of been the story of Alan Philpott's career the last number of years, where he had that road to one Warrior series where it looked great, and then he zigged when he should have zagged, and he succumbed to these submissions, and it's happened again here. He's 1-5, I think, in his last 6. So I'm not sure where he goes from here. I know he really wanted a shot on one of the shows in Ireland, so maybe that'd be a nice way to a next move. I think he would be a great addition to any card, but it just doesn't seem to be clicking for him. He looks great, and unfortunately he's just not getting the victories. You're on mute there, Ian.
Unfortunate, Alan didn't get the win there, but we shall move on. Bellator Belfast, a couple of fight announcements for Bellator Belfast. The biggest one, of course, James Gallagher versus Jeremy Kennedy. That's a big one, Caoilte. What do you think?
That is a massive fight, and it came out of nowhere for me. As soon as that was announced, very surprised. Massive fight, huge opportunity for James. This is one of those ones where you make your stamp in the division with the win, and it's one he could win, but it's probably going to be one of his toughest fights today, to be very honest with you.
I would agree 100%. I think it will be his toughest fight to date. Obviously was up at 145 for his last fight, picked up the win, been over there, Andy, at Bang Tao. Obviously you're the person who broke this news between James and Jeremy. Jeremy coming back over here again, behind enemy lines, coming up against James Gallagher on some home turf in Belfast for James. I'm excited to see what kind of work he's been doing over there at Bang Tao. Obviously James coming in here with an esteemed grappling background and has been working very hard in well-rounding his game with his striking as well. And Bang Tao, fantastic place to be able to do that, going over there, getting a lot of work there. So we'll see the fruits of that labour, I'm sure, in Belfast on March 22nd. What's your overall thoughts on the fight itself? Caoilte thinks it's a tough one. I do think it's going to be very tough as well. He's going to have to be coming in at 100% because Jeremy Kennedy is very, very good fighter, very underratedly good fighter in my opinion as well. And we've seen, he was in there against Pedro. Was it Pedro? Yeah. Against Pedro. And look, I'm excited. Look, it's great. Number one, it's great to see James back in Ireland, back competing on a big card. Just doesn't seem the same when he's not on these kind of cards. So it was a wise move sticking him up there on this Belfast card. And like Caoilte said, this is one that can kind of put you on the forefront of the 145-pound division. So very, very big storylines coming into this one for James.
100%. There's a lot of ways that you can look at this one because, as you rightly pointed out, the Bellator Dublin shows were built off the back of James Gallagher, and then obviously you had Caoilte and Leah and a couple of others headlined them over the years. But really, it was the big moments of James Gallagher's kind of rise through the Bellator ranks. So to get him back in Ireland, his first time competing since 2021 in Ireland is a great thing, and I think it's a really smart move, and it's a great addition to the card. Now, the fight itself, he's really been thrown the deep end here, I think. You talk about a guy in Jeremy Kennedy. It's a really great spot for him to be in the sense that he's already competed in Ireland. Fans would be a little bit familiar with him. He was going in to that fight against Pedro Carvalho, and that was being billed as the number one contender fight for the next crack at Patricio Pitbull's title. So he goes out there and he beats him, and in theory he should be next in line. He's already kind of cemented himself in the division. James, on the other hand, he, as you mentioned, went up to 145 in his last fight. It was a split decision against James Gonzalez, and James looked good, but it was a tough fight. And I think that the gap between James Gonzalez, I think it's James Gonzalez, and Jeremy Kennedy, I think that's a stark contrast. This is a huge jump. Now, what I would say is James's last loss came to Patchy Mix, and I thought the first round of that Patchy Mix fight was the best that James has ever looked on the feet in his career. Patchy Mix has since gone on to win the title. He won the tournament and then got the title, finishing Sergio Pettis. So, that loss ages well, but that's not to say that that James will go in here and beat Jeremy Kennedy. So he's a big challenge on his hands. But as you mentioned, if he gets the job done here in front of a hometown crowd, he jumps the queue. That's as simple as that. He skips the queue.
100%, yeah, very well said. One last thing I would say on that is, with that James Gonzalez fight and the win, a lot of stuff going on outside, the change of the gym, the James Krause situation, other kind of stuff going on in his personal life as well. So, to be able to go out there, perform, get the win with all of that stuff going on shows a lot of character for me, and hopefully things are a little bit more smoother with his preparations this time around. I'm excited to see him getting in there. Smart booking from Bellator. What else was on the card? Kieran Clark has been announced for the card. Nathan Kelly has been announced for the card. No opponents as of yet, but I'm sure the breaker of news, Mr. Stevenson, will have something for us soon next week or so for that. Two smart bookings there with Kieran and Nathan. We'll discuss that a little bit more. Big domestic fight announced for the card. Sinéad Kavanagh versus Leah McCourt 2, the rematch that did take place in Dublin in the 3 Arena. We're going back to Belfast. We talked to Sinead in a couple of minutes. We'll go ahead and hear her thoughts on the fight. But Caoilte, it's as I say at the start of the interview, it's the revenge or the repeat here for the rematch, and it's a fight that gets the juices flowing, doesn't it?
It really does. It adds to the card. It'll get everyone get a bit of hype built up beforehand. I really think they're stacking this card up, and this fight kind of adds to it. I do feel for Leah, because obviously before she was being told Belfast Cyborg title, and it seems that's now been taken away, and but now she gets a chance to avenge a loss. It's I'm buzzing for it. I don't know how it's going to go. I imagine it'd be very different to last time, considering Sinead was injured during the fight. The animosity in the build-up, which we speak about with Sinead, I feel like is going to make this just incredible. And it's probably one of the biggest fights we'll see of the year on Irish soil anyway. So if it lives up to the hype of last time, I'll be very happy.
Christmas has come early for you, Andy Stevenson. You love a good domestic fight, don't you? And it doesn't get any more domestic, and it doesn't get any more bigger than this one, doesn't it?
I do enjoy a good domestic fight. I think that they're special. I think that they add something. Now, I will say, I do think that from the cards perspective, a fight between Leah and Chris Cyborg, a world title fight, it would have been better for the card. It would have been bigger for the card. But I think that this was the next best fight that they could have made for Leah. Obviously, I think Leah definitely had earned herself a title shot. I know, look, we'll hear from Sinead in a minute and hear her thoughts, and she has maybe contrasting thoughts on that. But, she went out there, and she was probably a couple of sequences away from getting her hand raised against Katsingano, a really close fight, and then obviously finished McMahon in the first round. Cyborg has been, as we've talked before, it's hard to know what's going on, but Cyborg has been entertaining this for a long time, this Bellator Belfast against Leah. So we didn't get that, but I think this is a cracker. I think the rematch, Sinead has the win over Leah, so Leah may be, in kind of more of a pole position in the division, but Sinead can turn around and just say every single time, well, I beat you. But she'll also say is I beat you on one leg. So this is a great fight. I think it's a really solid domestic matchup. I think the build up to the first one was great. It was very respectful. And I think, as you'll hear in a few moments, there's a bit of animosity here. And I think this will be a very different build up to this fight, which, you know, whether you like it or loathe it, this stuff sells, and I like it. So there's animosity. You know, we'll get to see them lock horns in the cage on the 22nd of March, and we have a world title fight with Carl Moore at the top of the bill, and then a really solid domestic showdown. And a rematch. So yeah, I'm hyped.
Let's go. I'm hyped for this interview. I'm hyped for everybody to listen to it. Let's head on over here and hear what Sinead had to say about her fight with Leah McCourt on Belfast, Bellator 302. And now Sinead Kavanagh joins us back on the Auld Triangle. You're on, I think, for one of the year-end specials, but this is her first time on as official guest, Sinead. Heading in to Bellator 302, you said it yourself, it's either going to be revenge or a repeat. Leah McCourt, the rematch, it's happening up there in Belfast. How are you feeling about it? Excited to get back in there?
Yeah, definitely. You know, it was my last fight. When was that? In September. So yeah, it's nice turnaround to get back in, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Sarah Collins, last time out, split decision. How would you feel about that?
Do you know what? I'm going to get fucking honest with you here. Like, I done an awful, I done a training camp. I've done 14, 15 weeks training camp. Like, was prepared getting in. And fight week came, and my uncle committed suicide 5 days before my fight. My brother found him, and obviously I found out, and his funeral was the day before my fight. So I had a lot going on mental wise, and I had my uncle's Debs on my fight day. So yeah, that played a lot with me head, and obviously my performance showed. Like,
yeah, geez, very hard. Sorry to hear that news.
Like, I had no quit in me, so that's why I didn't pull out. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought I would have been able to do it, but obviously I wasn't all there.
Yeah, oh, geez, yeah, that's very, very sad.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I don't play the bleeding pity card, no. Like, you know, so
100%.
That's what happens. You know, so that's why I lost. That's why I lost. Like,
100%. So, look at that was obviously that was it. Were you close? Were you close with your uncle? Obviously.
Yeah. I miss him dearly. Like, you know. Yeah. You know. So it was and I couldn't mourn for him. Like, that week, I was trying to stay strong for myself. Like, and yeah, it wasn't when I got in there. Like, everything just fell apart. Like, you know.
Understandably so. That's a very difficult situation to have to deal with, and obviously you're going to be carrying a lot of those emotions into this camp. I'm sure ahead of the Leah fight, and
KO is back. KO is back for this one. You know, that's exactly what I was missing for that fight, but I'll be back for this one. Back to my performance. What I bring to the table. Like, always excited and always thrilling and always ready to go to war. Like. So that's where I'll be for this one. God love Leah.
Sinead, just before we talk about the next one, and very, very sorry to hear about your uncle. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Was there ever maybe a contemplation or a decision to make about pulling out from that fight? Because that's it's a really traumatic thing to go through right in the middle of fight camp. But did it ever? Was there a decision that had to be made there to continue on?
It was fight week. Not the fight camp. It was fight week. You know what I mean? I was hemming and hawing.
Did you consider pulling out?
I was hemming and hawing about it, but I thought I would be strong enough to win. Like, I thought that she wouldn't present a threat to me to not win. Like, do you know what I mean? So that's why I done it. Like. But obviously, I didn't work out that way. You know, I didn't perform to my best. Like, you know, I thought it was like a chess game. Like, you know, I just couldn't think of the moves, like, you know. So that's what happened, like, you know. But no, I did think about pulling out, but like that, I have no quit in me. All my life has been like something thrown in the spanner in the works, like, so. Yeah, I just went with it, like, you know.
You said it was also your son's debs on the day the fight was on as well.
My fight, yeah, so it was my uncle's funeral the Thursday, and my uncle's debs was the Friday, and I fought on the Friday evening, wasn't it? So yeah, it was just one of them things, like, you know. At least I could put it down to that, like, that's what happened to me, like, you know.
There was lots of different avenues I was going to go down around that fight, and one of the things that I definitely noticed is you did not seem yourself inside the cage, and that's for obvious reasons. Now, you know, nobody knew what was going on back then, but you know, even sacrificing meat, like those sacrifices that you have to make, Sinead, you've been making them all your life. You know, missing funerals and big events in your family. It's a thing that, you know, a lot of people looking from the outside in, they don't really realize that those are the sacrifices you make on a daily basis as a fighter.
Exactly, like, you know, and like, as I said, I didn't play like PE fucking card, like, here, like, you know, it is what it was. I didn't show up, you know. It was on me, like, to get to do my job, and I didn't, like, you know. But look, we move forward to a better fight now, you know.
100%. You have the chance to get back in there. Obviously, we've seen you and Leah get in there. You got hurt in that fight. So, you know, obviously getting the win back, going in there, obviously we were unlucky again. Another hurdle that you had to get over during that fight. You went on to win that fight. But you want to kind of go and do one better when you step in there against Leah up in Belfast. I'd be correct in saying that?
Yeah, this time with 2 legs, 2 arms, and a good mental health, you know.
What would you be expecting to go out there and do this time when you go in there and face off with Leah?
I think it's going to be blood spilled again this time, you know. I think there's a bit of, is that word? I'm going to show you a word, I don't know where it is. Animosity.
Based on the last few days, there's a bit of animosity, all right?
You know, I wasn't good in school, so I think on her part, like, I think she she has like a lot to prove, like, here, like, I don't know why she's giving out and pissing and moaning, like, and having her face like a melted candle, like, you know, like I won her on 1 leg, like, you know. Yeah, she won her last fight, but she lost 2 before that. You know, man, she lost against me. She lost against Katzengano. Sarah McMahon only fought once in Bellator. Like, so what makes her a title contender? Do you know what I mean? That's what I think. That's my opinion. So I don't know where she's going all this, like, this moaning and fucking, like, I don't want to be, why should I be fighting her? Like, you should be fighting me. You should be glad for the rematch. I bet you on 1 leg. They'll see what you can do. At your own game, I bet you.
So, okay, go ahead, Caoilte. Animosity.
Yeah, animosity. I guess with all this, do you think it adds to the, I guess, motivation to an extent in the build-up with, you know, the back and forth and everything going on publicly? Is like, does it add to this kind of hype and build-up to the fight for you? With
what's going on? What was on Twitter? Is it? Yeah, like I just thought she was disrespecting me name, like, you know, oh, why do I fight you? You sit in the car, like, you hush up and let me win the fight, and then I can fight for the title, like that's not gonna happen. Like, I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna be willing to fight and put on a show like we do, and let's see who wins and let's see who gets the title shot there, like, do you know what I mean? It's gonna be a totally different fight this time. Like, she's gonna be out for me and I'm gonna be out for her. And it's going to be fireworks once again. And that's what it is. That's the fight game. I'm not going to hush up, like, you know.
Sorry, Caoilte.
No, yeah, go for it.
Is there any talks of a title shot for the winner of this one? Because obviously Leah has mentioned that before, that she was told she would have been in line next to fight Cyborg. Obviously that didn't happen. This fight's going ahead. But has there been talks this time with a more secure plan for the winner to face Cyborg or for the title?
No, there hasn't been a plan, but, like, as I said, like, was that fight really going to happen? Like, was Cyborg going to travel all the way to Ireland and fight Leah? She was told that was meant to happen to me. Didn't happen for me. Like, Cyborg doesn't move for anyone, like, and she has faced bigger opponents than me and Leah. Do you know what I mean? In her whole career. So what gives her the right to, she's not going to come over here and fight. She doesn't move. Like, she fights where she wants to fight, and that's America. You know, on her grounds, on her terms. You know what I mean? She's the champion. And that's how I always seen it, that it was never going to happen. You know, and I think you'd be a fool to think that it was going to happen. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's how I feel about that. If it was going to happen, Leah would have to go to America to fight her.
How do you feel about the whole PFL Bellator takeover situation that's going on right now? Do you know what your path forward is over the next number of years? Because there seems to be a lot of unknowns out there right now, Sinead, with what's going on with the deal. Obviously, the championship series for Bellator was just announced. Have you been promised multiple fights this year, or what's your status? So you're just concentrating on the next one with Leah?
Yes, I have been, like, they have said, I've been told I'll be here March and I'm up in June. Like, I've been told that, which is, I want that. I've always wanted to be active. Which I'm so glad that PFL is that, like, so you know what when you're fighting, like, with in that case, you know, with Bellator, like it has been like a bit of all over the place. You don't know when it is. It's been out for a year. You're fighting once a year. For PFL, I think it seems to be like there's a structure, like, and you can follow that structure, you know. And that means you can get ready all year round, and then have your holidays then around that, like, you know. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So I'm meant to be fighting in March. I'm meant to be fighting in June. If all goes well. And yeah, I would love to do that fight for that £1 million. Like, who doesn't want the £1 million? You know what I mean? So yeah, I would. Yeah, I think there's a lot of girls in that division in PFL who is beatable. Like, you know. I think it'd be just the draw of the card you're going to get, and if you get a lucky draw, I think you could absolutely take that $1 million home. Like.
Mm-hmm. Sinead, one of the things that I think Bellator have been able to boast for a long time is their women's 145 division. You know, it's often, anytime Bellator is in the conversation, they're compared to the UFC, but where they've always excelled is the women's 145. That's been the strongest division in the world. Bellator have had that. Now with the purchase of PFL, I was expecting them to do $1 million tournament, but it seems that they've swapped out the 145 division for the flyweight division. Was it surprising to you? Like, were you expecting $1 million tournament for the 145ers?
I thought it would have gone, like, but I see it in the pipeline. Like, I don't see it too far off. Like, you know, with Cyborg, she's getting a bit pissed off at the moment. Like, you know what I mean? She's getting put in the corner, like, and she wants to fight. Like, so yeah, I absolutely think that's gonna happen. Like, with the champion in PFL, like, what's her name? She's
Larissa Pacheco.
Yeah, she's dangerous. So, like, I'd love to see that woman Cyborg fight. You know, definitely.
What did you think of Kayla Harrison moving over to the UFC? Would you have been like to have gotten in and fought her, or what do you make of that decision? It seems like, you know, on one side of the stick you can understand the move, but the other side of the stick she has a lot of this fresh competition that's coming in from Bellator now. What way do you see it?
I think, yeah, she done a legger. Like, you know what I mean? I thought there was a lot of talent in Bellator 145. It's amazing talent, like, there in that division. I think she done a legger, yeah, and she went over to UFC. What was that? I can't remember that other question you said.
Well, it was just basically what your thoughts on her moving over there to the UFC, the timing of it, everything like that. You reckon she's
she's going to get big more background in the UFC, kind of well known over there as well. You know, you get a bit more media attention. I don't understand why she went over, you know, but would I have liked to see her fight Cyborg? I would have, you know. I would have liked to fight Harrison, like, because she fought her one that Russian girl, like, and she went 3 rounds of her, like, you know. So, like, she is beatable, like, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Do you think she's going to make 135 pounds?
Yeah, that's a struggle. Like, I can't even make that, like, you know. So, and she's a big girl, like, you know what I mean? So,
She
whatever
is.
she's goody on, you know. So, yeah, I say I say she's professional enough to. She has everything around. She's in that American top team. Like, I'm sure they'll get her there in the end, anyway.
Sinead, just to jump back to the Leah fight, and I suppose the not thoughts, but the feelings that you have towards each other at the moment. Like, I can see it, to be blunt, I can see it from both of your perspective where, you know, Leah's gone, she had a close decision with Kat Zingano, obviously lost that one, and they beat Sarah McMahon. Cyborg, at least on Cyborg social media, I don't know if it's Cyborg herself, but her social media has been entertaining the idea of a title fight in Belfast with her. I can see from your perspective, you know, that you have a win over Leah, and obviously you're coming off a loss, but you've both gone 1-1 since that fight. There was a comment made from Leah on Twitter the other day where it said, where's this change of energy coming from? So I'm wondering, like, in the lead up to the first fight, it seemed that there was a lot of respect between the two of you.
Mm-hmm.
Was there actually, or like, did something change, or you know?
Yeah, it did change until she lost. Until she lost against me, and everything went out the window. Then she was disrespectful. She wouldn't say hello to me. She was like, just being a cow, like, you know what I mean? Our friends, like, school bullies towards me, like, laughing as I walk past. Just being like, yeah, just disrespectful, like, you know. And then when she grabs me, like, then she's saying about me fighting. Oh, I don't want to fight her. Why should I be fighting her? Like, yeah, so that's where it went wrong, you know. Our friends acting like school bullies towards me, like, laughing as I walk past was a big thing, like, you know, man.
Do you think that it'll be, you know, this animosity, will it be settled come the 22nd of March?
Anyway, like, I don't know, like, hopefully, yeah. I think we're going to settle in the cage as we always do, shake on it and walk on and get over, you know.
One question I wanted to ask you, not related to this fight, but when we look at, I suppose, it's a new era of Bellator now, right? And I thought that Bellator did some things very well. I had some gripes with some other things, you know, fighters being kind of left on the shelf, wanting more activity, etc. But I know that you've spoken openly about the impact that Bellator has had on your life from a financial perspective. You know, you were once living on the streets. Can you speak a little bit about, you know, just how much has Bellator impacted you and changed your life?
From everything, I make a living off fighting, like, and that's something I always dreamed about, like, you know. They paid me well and they looked after me. Like, I can't not, like, forget about all the people I've met in Bellator and what they've done for me. Like John Kavanagh got me there. Like, without John Kavanagh, I wouldn't have been there. That man has helped me out. Like, so the minute I walked into that club, you know, man. So yeah, I owe John my life, and I owe Bellator what they've done for me. They brought me to the top of my game, and I've more to give, Henry, you know. So yeah, totally grateful for everything.
One big criticism that we had, and we share it with you as well, you didn't fight enough with Bellator the last time. Now, you said this one in March, the one in June, you want to go once again after that. Have you, do you know much details? Do you know much details about what's happening in June, where maybe an event might be taking place? Is it going to be closer to home? Is it going to be stateside?
Yeah, well, I've heard it's going to be Dublin, like, you know what I mean? So that's what I've heard.
Nice.
So would
you like that to be
what I've heard, like, you know, I haven't got anything in written, like, so I'm just hoping that it's like to keep the word, like, you know what I mean? I do fight in June, you know.
You know, with everything that's going on with Cyborg and everything like that, if it is going to be in Dublin, you know, you said yourself the chances of Cyborg coming over would be minimum. Would that Sarah Collins rematch be one on top of your radar as well to try and get that one back?
That's another one, isn't it? Back there, I have a few anyway, isn't it? Look, it was as well with everything that went on fight week. It was let me say, what was that word? Our skills were, like, it was good on paper, like, but, like, it just didn't in the cage. Like, would I fight her again? Of course I would, like, and bring a better version of myself, you know, man. But yeah, you know, why not? Why not?
Sure.
Sinead, how is the body now? Because I feel like every time I saw you kind of running into you at events the last kind of little while, you've been on crutches or hobbling. Like, how are you now? How are the injuries?
Good. Broken eye socket from sidewalk. It's not. I'm good. I'm all good. I'm trying hard and doing everything that I need to be doing. Like, you know, I'm in a good headspace, and that's the key to fighting. Is this, you know? So yeah, I'm all good.
Well, Sinead, we won't take up any more of your time. We know you're busy today. First of all, maximum condolences after everything that you went through with your uncle. I'm really sorry to hear that. And thank you so much for being open and honest and sharing that with us today. We really appreciate it.
Always. You always get the honesty from me. You know what I mean?
I love it. That's what we love about you. We're really looking forward to this rematch. You know, the fans are looking forward to it too. It's going to be a big, big night up there in Belfast, March 22nd, Bellator 302. Sinead Kavanagh versus Leah McCourt 2. The rematch, the repeat, or the revenge is on. And we'll be talking to you. I'm sure the lads will be up there speaking to you ahead of that fight as well. Sinead, thanks for taking the time to speak.
Lads, right. Go on, thank you.
All right, fellas, a couple of fight announcements that we'll go through before we get into the Cage Legacy Cage Conflict cards coming up, obviously, this coming weekend as well. Solomon Simon back in action, Cage Warriors Dublin on April 6th against Ewan McKenzie. I love this fight. Caoilte, big fan of Solomon, I know you are, and this is a great matchup for him. 3-0 versus 3-0. And Ewan McKenzie, decent fighter too, as is Solomon. This is a great matchup, and fair play to Ian Dean. He knows how to stick these kind of fights together.
Ian Dean's like the postman. He always delivers. Like, fantastic fight. You know, two really good prospects. We're very high on Solomon. Then I know in Wales, I speak to the likes of Ricky Wright, and they tell me about the likes of Ewan and speak extremely highly of him and consider him a top prospect. So this seems like one of these fights that the winner will have that next step to the next level within Cage Warriors and start pushing onwards. And it's really exciting, and probably, I guess, could potentially be a breakout moment for Solomon Simon with a win here, because of how significant it could be moving to 4. If he moves to 4-0, the fights that can line up are just incredible, and the opportunities that opens up as well. So brilliant. Love the matchmaking, and great to see that booking now. I'm delighted with that.
Yeah, very good booking there. Obviously, in Cage Warriors Dublin, we have Tuke the Kathmandu back in action against Rory Evans at 6-6. Tuke coming in at 4-2. So, you know, Tuke coming in against the experienced guy in Rory Evans, but he had a fantastic 2023. We spoke to Chris Fields on the last episode. We're expecting big things from Tuke, from the Team KF this year. I think it's going to be a big year for them, so I'm very excited. And I'm sure, you know, Chris did tease that there will be other Team KF fighters on the card. Nothing has been announced as of yet, but we'll definitely get into that too. Gary Rooney versus Michael Evans will happen on March 30th at Almighty FC 35 over in the UK. We got a fight card in Tenerife. I don't know whether you want to get the sunglasses, Andy, out. You like to travel. You know, it might be a good one. We have Jack Maguire, we have Dee Begley on Fight 2-1 over on the 16th of March in Tenerife, right before St. Patrick's Day. You couldn't write. That's a great venue to have a fight. And maybe your thoughts on the couple of those ones. Rooney, Dee Begley, Jack Maguire. Good to see all of those common names and familiar names back in action.
Yeah, it is. And I got a little bit of insight into Gary Rooney's opponent, Michael Evans. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this, but I'll find out if he does after we go out. But it was when I just kind of posted up, Caoilte Loughran reached out to me, and he was saying that he actually used to train and use Evans as a sparring partner, and that he's a really, really talented jiu-jitsu player. So that, you know, Gary's bread and butter is his jiu-jitsu. I think he's a black belt now, right? And we've seen him use that to his advantage in his amateur career. So I think he's got this should be a solid matchup here, where perhaps, you know, we might see Gary's striking come out a bit more, or his wrestling, but just very interesting to see. And especially, you know, I think Gary, I remember when we first heard of his pro debut, it was against a guy, I can't remember who it was, but we were kind of like, oh, you know, Garry should go in here and get the job done fairly handy. That never came to fruition, and he went and fought Moraru George next, which is, you know, a solid matchup, a tough fight. And again, he's taken on a guy here who seems to be, you know, a tough matchup. So Garry Rooney taking some solid fights here in his early pro career, which is great to see. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him. And yeah, more so Jack McGuire. Haven't heard Jack McGuire fight news in a long time. You know, he was when I got back to Ireland and started covering events a bit more in person. Jack McGuire was on the cards. You know, that kind of 2019 into 2020, he was the resurgence of Irish in cage warriors. He was really a part of that. So it's good to see him back. I know he's been kind of dealing with injuries the last while, but yeah, really, really, really good to see him back in action.
100%. We broke the news during the week, last week, that Will Fleury has signed with Oktagon. He's back in action. His suspension for performance-enhancing drugs is over. It was over on January 1st. He has signed up with Oktagon MMA. Caoilte, what do you think of the signing? I like it. There are lots of opportunities there for him. He probably had one of the most memorable kind of contract signings ever, where in the process of signing his name on the contract, he went on to talk about and talk shit about every single guy on the roster there. So curious to hear what your thoughts on the signing, and do you think Oktagon MMA is a good kind of startup, I guess, restarting point for Will Fleury to get his career back up and going?
Yeah, it's funny. I was about to reference that signing video. It's brilliant, and it'll get the attention of all those guys in the division. And I'm sure one or two have bitten or will bite. And Will's, he's going to be a top contender coming into Oktagon, in my opinion. Like, I think, that's a very smart sign from the promotion. Very big opportunity. I know they've been doing these. I'm not sure if he's involved in. They do these tournaments. These game changer tournaments that there's a massive prize fund for as well. So there's an opportunity to make a lot of money, to get your name out there, and pick up some solid wins, and even potentially pick up a title. Like, he could see the year out now if he performs like we've seen him in recent times. He could end up with a title over his shoulder there by the end of the year. So brilliant signing, and I'm really excited to see what he can do. It's good to see Irish fighters across different promotions as well. We've seen them kind of all between maybe Bellator is the primary one, the Cage Warriors, but now we're seeing them like Oktagon, more promotions to watch, potentially more world champions as well. So that's the other side of it. And yeah, brilliant. I'm delighted.
Yeah, 100%. Very well said. Like, I think it's a smart one for Oktagon, Andy, because, we have had a couple of Irish fighters that have been signed up, but I would class this as a marquee signing for them, especially in Irish mixed martial arts. A guy in Will Fleury that they can build up into the division en route to maybe getting a title shot. If you're thinking about, bringing an event to Ireland or something, you could see Will Fleury at the top of that card as well. So I feel with all of that, it's kind of good business move for both parties, really.
Yeah, Will is a very known entity in Irish MMA and in MMA in general. He was looking good in that PFL tournament. Obviously, look, the elephant in the room is his suspension, or not the elephant in the room, but he's coming off the suspension for failing a drugs test. So that's also going to draw eyes. You know what I mean? Like, there's people feel strongly about that. I've already seen on social media. I saw Paddy McCarry kind of like voicing his frustration about, I guess, coverage of Will coming back in.
I don't think that there should be no dramas there. Like, our duty is to cover.
No, I agree. I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that at that time. I think that we can't be held at fault for covering news stories like this. We'll cover everything down the middle all the time, good or bad. Like, we can't pick any sides or base it off personal opinions. I mean, it's news at the end of the day, and Will Fleury, whatever, that's something he'll have to deal with or speak about himself. But I feel that we're not going to not talk about people because we feel other people shouldn't. I just think it's important for us to kind of stress that a little bit. Sorry for interrupting.
No, I completely agree with everything you just said there. Like, it's new. It's not reporting on something is not condoning it or advocating for it or denouncing it. It's just, this is the news. He's served a suspension. He's now been signed by a promotion, and now he's going to go in here and as Caoilte mentioned, that Tip Sport game changer tournament, there's an opportunity to win €1 million here. And look, Will is again. This isn't condoning it, but this is what I believe to be fact. Will has been reported as failing a drugs test. It's happened to a lot of other people. This will continue to happen. If you look at people at the top of the sport, look at John Jones, look at Anderson Silva, look at the UFC. There's so many that have failed drugs tests, came back, and have continued to have careers. Like it's not just the end of your career. It's not just people shun you from the sport. This is the reality. Whether people, and people are entitled to their opinion, and they can believe that it should be a different way, but that's just not really how it works. So Will is restarting his career here, and was in PFL. I don't know. We haven't heard from Will really on that whole topic. I would love to hear Will speak about the whole topic of the suspension and the failure and restarting his career and all of that stuff. And then additionally on why did he leave PFL? What was the interactions there like? And how did he end up in Oktagon? But I do think that Will is an entity that Oktagon can now use to their advantage in Ireland, as you mentioned, in the UK, and I think he's going to go in. And to be honest, I think he'll go in and compete, and he'll probably challenge for top spot in that.
100%. Yeah, I would agree with everything that you said there. Very well said, Andy. And look at whatever anybody's opinion is on that situation. You have every right to share your opinions. We will also. So yeah, not disparaging what anybody thinks about the situation. Everyone has the right to feel how they feel about that. But I'm looking forward to seeing Will back. I think overall he's a good asset to Irish mixed martial arts, and I think he's made the right move and kind of kickstarting back his career at Oktagon as well. Moving on down along the lines, one last fight we'll talk about before we get into the regional scene here, lads. Like I said, Saturday, February 19th, Henry Felipe, KSW 91. Hercules is back in the KSW cage, so that is a busy, busy day for Irish mixed martial arts. You'll be able to see him during the day and Ian Garry at night. And obviously, the next card we'll talk about, Cage Legacy, will also be on February 17th. So we're going to be busy on next Saturday, or this coming Saturday, lads. We're going to, it might be a 2 TV job kind of a deal for me. Richie Smullen, Kirill Medvedovsky. Oh, that's a tough one.
Go again.
Medvedovsky.
I was close to it. I think it's Medvedovsky.
So yeah, that's it. Me and names, lads. Look, this is a cracking fight to have at the top of a card, really, Caoilte, isn't it? A guy like Richie Smullen, very well known on the Irish scene, obviously enough. Credit to his current situation with PFL/Bellator. They've allowed him to compete on this card. Obviously, maybe if things go well, he might be looking at him for the card in March as well. But a top booking at the top of the card for Cage Legacy, so we have to give him all the credit in the world for that.
Mad props for that. Like we don't often see big fights like that being booked for regional shows. In most spots, even the UK, you don't see fights like that. So that's a huge fight for Cage Legacy, and one that they'll be able to they'll be able to look back and think that's a monumental moment. They're able to put this fight on in the main event, and yeah, brilliant fight. Tough fight for Smullen, but it could, as you said, if he gets a win or he will have a good performance, could land himself a spot on one of the further PFL cards that are coming up, or even on the Bellator cards, whatever they're going to do with those. But yeah, great to see him on the card as well. It's nice to see. I say he'll bring quite the crowd with him as well. So that's brilliant.
Nice one. I'm sure you're excited for it as well, Andy. It's always good to see Richie in action, and look with Kirill as well. He's coming in there with a lot of experience soon, Bellator and PFL as well. So this is top high level fight here that we're getting to see. Anyone who's still maybe thinking about getting tickets to this show, I mean, this one, and obviously we'll talk about the co-main event, Conor McCarthy, along with the rest of the card in a minute, but top booking here from the boys.
It's brilliant. I can't think, I was trying to rack my brain there. Off the top of my head, I can't think of the last time there's been a fight of this level, of this experience between two guys who've very tenured, very skilled, on a domestic show. Obviously, we've had international shows come to Ireland, but I couldn't tell you the last time there's been a fight this big. Richie Smullen was going in and competing in the top 10 of Bellator only last year, so this is a huge one. And fair play to Cage Legacy for getting this, and this is brilliant because I think this is what you want out of a the domestic scene. You want to have these kind of big pro fights. Like, I know there's been a shift towards amateur, and I'm sure the cost is very difficult, but pro is where you really you can bite your teeth into it, and people can, they've already gone on a journey with these fighters and they know them, and I just think that they're better. I think that they're more grandiose, I guess. So to have this at the top of the card is brilliant. Fair play to Cage Legacy.
100%. Talk to me about Conor McCarthy, Andy. I'll stick with you for a minute. This is the start of a fantastic journey I feel that we're going to be on with Conor McCarthy over the next number of years. Professional debut against Iran Angelo, a lightweight co-main event at Cage Legacy as well. And I mean, if we didn't kind of sell you on the main event, we're definitely going to sell you on the level that Conor McCarthy is at coming into his professional debut. Peter Queally has been shouting from the rooftops that this is the best prospect that he has seen since the likes of Conor McGregor. I'm along those lines with Conor McCarthy and the levels that he brings into the cage. I'm very excited to see him kick off his professional debut, and I'm sure you are as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we made any secret on this podcast how much we enjoy watching Conor McCarthy fight, and it's been that way for like a while now. Like, he's only making his pro debut, but we've kind of been really high on this guy for a good while now, and that just speaks to his, like, the way that he's impressed at amateur, the power in his hands, the intelligence that he fights with, the variety of skill set, and his boxing. It really, like, the first thing I think of when I think of Conor McCarthy is his boxing background and the way he displays that in an MMA cage, and he's a savage. And I think that, I put it out there, he is the best. In my opinion, currently, he's the best fighter that's turning pro right now, the best prospect coming through. And that's to me, in my own personal opinion, that says a lot, because I also rate a lot of the other lads incredibly highly. Now, some of them have already made their pro debuts, but like, you look at a guy like Tiernan Loughran, who we'll talk about, that's going to fight on the Cage Conflict card a week later. He's a phenomenal talent too. So there's so much talent breaking through, and Conor McCarthy is right up there at the top for me, of guys in Ireland making their transition to the pros.
100%. Lots of talent that will be looking to break through as well on the rest of the card, Caoilte. Look, we won't go through it from top to tail. Any standout fights that you're looking forward to on the card itself? When I'm looking at as well, not to kind of take a couple from you, I'm looking at that first fight on the main card as well, Shea Leatham versus Graham Sheehan for the interim middleweight title. That's a cracking amateur fight right there. I know that you're into your amateur fights as well. Anything else sticking out to you on the card?
Yeah, one in particular for me is got to be the Fufu Fares against Jake Knight. That's going to be, that's two top prospects in the country fight. Going, yeah, really good matchmaking. I think it's a bit of a clash of styles as well. It's just something I really like. Look, they're both well-rounded, but I feel like Fares is, he's this quick striker that moves so much, seems to have an engine for days that doesn't end. And then you've got Jake, who we've seen absolutely excel on the ground, pull off some of the rare submissions you'd imagine in an amateur fight, which is crazy. And he's so active, both of them so active. So it's a great clash of styles. It's a great fight, brilliant matchmaking, and I feel like it's a worthy title fight as well. One of those, you can see titles thrown around quite a bit in the regional scene, but in terms of actual worthy title fight, I think this was one, and brilliant. I'm really looking forward to that. I think it could be one of the standout fights tonight.
100%. Yeah, on the undercard as well, look at shout out Keane McCartan. We'll see him against Henry Leka at flyweight. That's a good, really good fight on the undercard as well. We see the return of Jordan Scully there from SPG Nacy's listed down as now. Obviously did some work as well at SPG Tullamore against Carol Burns. So lots and lots to look out forward to. Look, if you're interested, look, anyone who's listening to this is going to be interested in this card. Anyone who's maybe not as familiar that are tuning into the Auld Triangle, this is a card where you're going to see lots and lots of up and coming talent on February 17th. And Andy, I know the mouth is open. You have a final thought as per usual. Give it to me.
As per usual, I do want to highlight one fighter who I feel that if people don't know him already, they should get to know him. And he's fighting in this card. He's making his professional debut, and that's George Grozov out of Hula Martial Arts. He really, really impressed me at amateur, and I think he kind of flies under the radar. Like he was, what is his record? He finished off with a 7-2 record, and he's won his last, I think, 6 fights he's won. And I remember watching him against Fufu Fares in one of those shows that was I'm gonna have Topology open here, Cage Legacy. It was in the big top, the circus tent, and Fares was winning that fight. And the way that George Grozov stuck in there and overcame and pushed ahead and got the win was very impressive to me. And since then, he's beaten Mararu George when Mararu George was 5-0 as an amateur, and he's finished Elvis Lugo. He finished both Lugo brothers with submissions in his amateur career. So he's another guy who's been really progressing the last kind of year or two, and I think he's one to watch.
100%, very, very valid and final point there. And yeah, I would agree. Definitely a guy to look out for as well. February 17th is when that's happening. Move forward until the following Saturday, February 24th. We have Cage Conflict 12th, Anarchy. And I guess all proceeds, we got to say, very kindly going to the Ryan Curtis cause, the GoFundMe that is up for Ryan Curtis right now. We likely put the link in the description again if you want to go there and donate to that cause. It would be greatly appreciated from Ryan and his family and friends as well. And obviously, you know, all funds, all that will be raised off this upcoming Cage Conflict card will go to that cause too. So credit to Cage Conflict for that as well. Andy, you mentioned Tiernan Loughran, so I'll give you the floor to kind of share your opinion on Tiernan. He's making his pro debut. Obviously, he was on speaking with us about that, broke the news on the Auld Triangle. And I'm excited to see him in action. He's a guy that's, you know, really coming into his own. It's the absolute, like when you're talking about what's the right time to go professional, I think we can say the same for both Conor and for Tiernan, who have gone out there, taken the hard fights and are turning pro at the exact perfect time for me in both of these guys. But please, sir, talk to me about Tiernan. You're excited for his fight.
I am very excited for Tiernan Loughran's fight. And, you know, I guess with the context of having just spoken about Conor McCarthy, where I'm saying, you know, this guy is the best, Tiernan Loughran has every right for, if anyone in the country is saying, you know, this guy is the best amateur turning pro or anything like that, he has every right to feel, well, hang on a second, that's me actually. That's me, because he's shown himself, you know, especially I feel since the fight against Max Lally, that he's just looked so dominant. And we haven't seen as much of his striking as maybe, or at least I would have liked to have seen, but it's because his grappling is so impressive. And he's just like, well, you know, these lads feel, I think he said that in the last interview we did with him, he's like, you know, I just could feel the strength difference. And I could feel that, you know, I have him here. So why bother? Why bother striking when you can just take the fight to the mat and dominate? He's the younger brother of Caoilte Loughran, UFC fighter, former Cage Warriors champion. And you'll have heard Tiernan on the podcast already. He's a guy that I expect to see, you know, progress quite quickly up the pro ranks early on, get onto a show like a Cage Warriors or one of the big shows. And I expect to see him on the world stage at a certain point. Now, early doors, obviously, that's a lot of pressure to put on someone who's only making their pro debut, but that's the type of expectations and hopes that you'd have for a guy like Tiernan, who has looked so impressive as an amateur. Yeah,
100%. Very well said. And obviously, you're going to have the pressure of his brother Caolan and how successful he's been as well. So I think for a guy like Tiernan, it's kind of that pressure has always existed. You know, you always have that big brother, little brother pressure from a guy, speaking from a guy who's an only child. But I don't know where I got that. I was looking from the outside in there, guys, giving that analysis. I think a guy who's able to deal with pressure is Tiernan Loughran. We showed that, and I'm very excited to see his professional debut. Lots of other good fights, Caoilte, on the card. I'll give you a chance as well to highlight some more as well, Andy. Anything that's sticking out to you on the rest of the card? Obviously, we got Brian Manning, who's been very active in 2023, coming in against Garrett McCormick. I really like that fight as well. That's an amateur middleweight fight. A couple of others ones as well. I'll give you the floor, Caoilte. Tell me what you're looking forward to.
Yeah, look, there's a few amateur ones I'm going to have a look at as well, but I would do want to mention the Eamon Dean and Andrea Marazzo fight. Look, say what you want. Look, you can look at records and think what you want, but Eamon Dean's only had one MMA fight and he jumped in on short notice to fight professional against Troy Gibson and won. So I'm more interested in this one to see, like, okay, how does he look now with a full training camp? He's moved over to FAI. He has a striking background from before. So I'm really intrigued to see how he gets on here, because it could be really exciting as well. And I've heard one or two people tell me how good he is, and it's like, okay, let's have a look. And I am interested in that. I think that'd be brilliant. There's, it's never a cage conflict card without one or two Italians coming over for a fight, So that's the other side. And then Henry Corrigan's fighting in the other fight as well in pro flyweights in this country. I don't know what we're doing, but we're producing them like no tomorrow. It's brilliant.
Fly never die. I love it. I love it.
Ian, the original flyweight Ian.
Stop the lights, God almighty. It's it's brilliant to see like this lightweight talent, and the flyweight talent. Even you go up as far as Ger Harris, who's obviously signed up with Cage Warriors, but it's so exciting, and I love me some flyweights, and I'll always champion flyweights. On the rest of the card, any fights that we haven't mentioned that you'd like to kind of give a shout out to? Another look at with Cage Conflict, same as with Cage Legacy, put on some cracking cards. I'm really looking forward to this one too.
Yeah, I was looking through, to be honest, like a lot of the amateur fights on this card this is one of those cards where they maybe have kind of less experienced records and stuff. So it's for me, it is really the Tiernan and as Quid said, Eamon Dean, like, because we talk often about we'll call a spade where and sometimes maybe I'm too harsh about records and stuff, but like, to be fair to Eamon Dean, he's fighting a guy who's 3-8. That's 11 fights that lad has had. And it is mad. Like, I kind of forgot that Eamon Dean didn't even have an amateur fight. Like, he went straight into pro. It's nuts. Like,
insane.
So like, this is, he's fighting an experienced guy here, despite the record, like, where he does not have this experience. So, and he's a bit of an enigma. Like, this guy who just kind of strolls in and beats Troy Gibson, who was, we were quite high on heading into that fight, and he was supposed to fight his teammate. It's a bit mad, but yeah, I'm kind of. I'm going through them here, and it's mainly those ones that I'm hyped for. To be honest here,
100%, yeah. And the
Gareth McCormick one has already been mentioned, of course.
For sure, yeah. No, lots of interesting ones, lots of emerging talent as well. I think the same can be said as well. And Andy, go ahead.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
We're used to it at this stage, Andy. Come on.
Michael Shields. I forgot about this one. Michael Shields. He's a very, very impressive fighter. Tune in for him. He's fighting apologies for pronouncing his name wrong. Yeah, Jed Paolo, Jess Paolo's younger brother. That's a good fight as well. Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, 100%. Very well said. That's it. Lots of things to be looking forward to in the Irish mixed martial arts scene, guys. Another great show. 50 shows. We hope we have plenty more milestones when it comes to the Auld Triangle podcast. It's been great. It's been fun building the podcast over 50 episodes. We'll continue to do what we do, and that's what we want to do, is talk about Irish mixed martial arts, because we love it, and shining a light on the scene is something that me, myself, and the two boys take great pride in. And thanks to everybody who has been listening to us for the last 50 episodes, and will continue to listen to us hopefully over the next 50. Thanks to Sinéad Kavanagh, thanks to Dylan Tuke, thanks to the two boys, thanks to everybody for listening. As I said at the start, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you know somebody who's interested in knowing a little bit more about Irish mixed martial arts, tell them the Auld Triangle is the place to be. Caoilte, see us out.
Mars Canás, Slán go full.